The Kowloon Walled City is one of the most fascinating and eerie chapters in urban history. Imagine a city within a city, an overcrowded maze of narrow alleys, high-rise buildings stacked on top of each other, and a community that was simultaneously ignored and abandoned by authorities. It existed in a state of constant growth, like a living, breathing entity. A bit of background. The Kowloon Walled City was originally a Chinese military outpost, dating back to the Song Dynasty, 960 to 1279. But over the years, it grew into a sprawling, densely packed settlement in Hong Kong, right next to the border with China. After the British took control of the rest of Hong Kong in the 19th century, the walled city's status became unclear, and it was largely left to its own devices. What's crazy is that by the 1950s, the walled city was completely abandoned by Hong Kong authorities, and this is when things really started to spiral. No formal government oversight meant there were no building codes, no sanitation, and no real law enforcement. But people kept moving in, and the place became a self-organized, almost anarchic community of squatters. Life inside. The Kowloon Walled City was famously dense. At its peak, it had more than 30,000 people living in just 6.4 acres of land, making it one of the most densely populated places on Earth. Buildings were built right on top of each other, with no space between them, and many of the structures didn't have foundations, just shaky wooden beams. There were no roads or streets, just a labyrinth of narrow alleyways so tight that sunlight rarely reached the ground. The whole place was like an underground maze, with its own microcosm of life. Despite the lack of formal infrastructure, the residents made do. There were communal kitchens, underground factories, and even a black market economy thriving within its walls. The walled city became a hub for all kinds of illicit activities, from drug production to gambling and even unlicensed medical practices. But there was also a strong sense of community. Families, some of whom had lived there for generations, managed to carve out a living, often with small businesses like restaurants, carpentry shops, and repair services. A little bit of everything. Drugs and crime. It's true that Kowloon Walled City became infamous as a haven for triads and a hub for the production of heroin. With no police presence, crime flourished. Living conditions. The living conditions were dire. Rooms were tiny, sometimes just 4 feet by 6 feet, often shared by multiple families. The lack of ventilation, sanitation, and clean water created a perfect breeding ground for disease. Family life. Despite its chaos, Kowloon had its own kind of family life. There were schools, doctors, often unlicensed, and small corner stores. Residents formed tight-knit communities and managed to survive through mutual support. The end of Kowloon Walled City. Eventually, the Hong Kong government decided that the walled city had become too dangerous and unsanitary to continue to exist. In the early 1990s, plans were made to demolish the entire area. In 1993, after years of negotiations and planning, the walled city was officially cleared and demolition began. It took just 3 years for it to be completely razed. Today, Kowloon Walled City no longer exists, but in its place is a beautiful park, a serene reminder of the chaotic past. The Kowloon Walled City Park contains remnants of the old city's walls and some historical structures that harken back to the area's military origins. Why does it fascinate people? The Kowloon Walled City is an iconic symbol of urban chaos, survival, and community resilience. It captured the imagination of many because of how it was able to exist outside the boundaries of the law and government. It was a place of extreme density, where people were forced to adapt and innovate just to live day to day. Even though it was demolished, it left a lasting cultural legacy. The walled city has inspired books, movies, and even video games, like Shadowrun and Battlefield. Its images continue to haunt the collective imagination of those who see it as a symbol of urban extremes. Pretty wild, right? It's like a real-life example of a place where human survival instincts and community spirit met in an urban jungle.